Hollywood told him he was the future of action movies. The Los Angeles Times called him the next Schwarzenegger. The International Producers Association named him the new action star of the 90s. He doubled for Arnold in one of the greatest action sequences ever filmed. He led his own superhero TV series. He shot Trinity in The Matrix Reloaded. And then Hollywood forgot he existed. In 1991, when Arnold Schwarzenegger was tearing through the streets on a motorcycle in Terminator 2, Judgment Day, it wasn't always Arnold doing the dangerous work. The man handling those brutal chase sequences, taking the falls, matching the timing at high speed, was a square-jawed martial artist with a black belt in Kenpo karate named Matt McColm. He was 26 years old. He looked like he'd been carved from stone. And everyone who worked with him knew he had what it took to be a star himself. So why have you probably never heard his name? That's the question at the heart of this story, because Matt McColm didn't fail. He did everything right. He had the skills, the look, the connections, the opportunities. He came within inches of stardom multiple times, and somehow he became one of Hollywood's most forgotten almost stars. His story isn't about lack of talent or missed chances due to personal failings. It's about something more frustrating, more heartbreaking. It's about a man who checked every box, opened every door, and still couldn't quite break through the final barrier. Born on January 31, 1965 in Santa Barbara, California, Matt came into the world alongside his twin brother Mark, a detail that would quietly shape his career for decades. Growing up in the coastal California city, Matt attended Bishop Garcia Diego High School, where he first discovered the discipline that would define his physical capabilities. He earned a black belt in Kenpo karate, the same explosive fighting style used by action stars like Jeff Speakman. The martial art emphasized speed, power, and practical combat applications, skills that would serve Matt well in the years to come. But Matt didn't take the typical path to Hollywood. His first credited stunt work came in 1979 in a TV movie called The Knight Rider. He was just 14 years old, already throwing himself into the physical demands of the entertainment industry before most kids learned to drive. After a 5-year gap, he returned to the industry in the mid-'80s, grinding through television stunt work on shows like Cagney and Lacey, Simon and Simon, Hardcastle and McCormick, The Fall Guy, and Riptide. These weren't glamorous jobs. They were the unglamorous foundation of a career. Learning how to take hits, how to fall safely, how to make violence look real without actually getting hurt. In 1986, he made the jump to film with The Golden Child, leaving television stunts behind. He was learning his craft the hard way, one bruise at a time. But here's where Matt's story diverges from every other stuntman in Hollywood. Most stunt performers stay behind the camera forever. They build respectable careers, doubling for stars, taking the risk so the famous faces don't have to. Matt had something they didn't, the face of a leading man. While building his reputation catching punches and taking falls, he entered the modeling world and absolutely dominated it. He became the primary face of Ralph Lauren Chaps clothing line from 1988 to 1996, appearing in extensive print campaigns and advertisements that showcased his rugged all-American image. He worked with Gianni Versace. He worked with Calvin Klein. He worked with Doug Ordway. By the early 90s, he was one of the top male models in the entire industry. His square-jawed features and muscular physique making him the ideal representation of masculine style. Most action stars can't model. Most models can't fight. Matt McColm could do both and do both at an elite level. This should have been enough to break through, but it wasn't. From 1989 to 1994, Matt was performing stunts in 3 to 5 films per year. His credits during this era read like a tour through late 80s and early 90s action cinema. John Carpenter's cult classic They Live in 1988, Jean-Claude Van Damme's post-apocalyptic Cyborg in 1989, Steven Seagal's breakthrough Above the Law, the Clint Eastwood film The Rookie, Peter Weller's Shakedown, the horror sequel Maniac Cop. His martial arts expertise and willingness to take physical punishment made him invaluable on set. Directors knew they could count on him to deliver clean action takes without complaint. Then came Terminator 2 and the job that should have changed everything. James Cameron was pushing practical effects and stunt work to their absolute limits with the sequel. He needed someone who could match Arnold Schwarzenegger's physicality for the motorcycle chase, one of the most demanding sequences in action movie history. The role required precise timing, high-speed vehicle control, and the resilience to take repeated falls and impacts across multiple shooting days. They chose Matt McColm. At 26, he was trusted to double for the single biggest action star on the planet in sequences that would be watched by hundreds of millions of people worldwide. The motorcycle chase in T2 remains one of the most celebrated action sequences ever filmed, studied by filmmakers, and replicated in countless imitations. Matt was there for all of it, doing the dangerous work that made it possible. Think about what that should have meant. He had physically matched Arnold Schwarzenegger on the biggest action movie of the decade. He had proven he could handle the most demanding stunt work in the industry. The industry had to notice. The industry had to recognize that this guy could carry films himself. And they did. A 1996 Los Angeles Times profile highlighted Matt alongside emerging action stars like Olivier Gruner and Ralph Moeller as potential successors to the established icons. These were serious industry conversations about who would carry the torch when Schwarzenegger and Stallone aged out of leading roles. The International Producers Association named Matt the new action star of the 90s. Robert Welkos of the LA Times declared that McColm might be Hollywood's next-generation action star, following directly in the footsteps of Schwarzenegger and Stallone themselves. The hype was real. The validation was coming from respected industry sources, not fan magazines or promotional materials. In 1994, Matt made his move. He set aside stunts entirely to focus on acting, betting his career on the momentum building behind him. His first major starring role came quickly, Red Scorpion 2, leading a commando team against neo-Nazis hunting the legendary Spear of Destiny. The film had almost nothing to do with the original Dolph Lundgren vehicle, featuring an entirely new cast and largely unrelated story. Matt played Nick Stone, an agent with the National Security Agency, reluctantly drawn into one last mission. The film starred Michael Ironside and John Savage, giving Matt legitimate character actors to work with rather than the usual direct-to-video filler. Interestingly, Gary Daniels and David Bradley, both of whom would have substantial direct-to-video careers themselves, were considered for the lead before the role went to Matt. He won out over proven action talent. The producers believed in him specifically. What followed was a string of films that showcased everything he could do. Subterfuge in 1996, where he played Jonathan Slade, a retired military hero carrying out a secret CIA mission. Critics called the film mediocre, but Matt's performance received genuine praise. Writing for Ultimate Action Movies, Andrew Babcock would later note that McColm had the it factor and gave a very likable performance. He concluded that McColm simply knows action and called him an underrated performer. In 1997 came The Protector, also known as Body Armor, directed by career stuntman Jack Gill, who would go on to work second unit on films like The Fate of the Furious. Matt played Kenneth James Conway, an ex-commando turned private detective. Reviewers called him totally charismatic in the hero role, comparing his physical presence to an 80s jock. Another review praised him as ruggedly handsome with rogue charm who doesn't take things too seriously and is a likable enough hero. Acts of Betrayal came the same year with Matt playing an FBI agent protecting a woman in distress. There was also another film called Fighting Revenge where Matt played Sergeant John Trenton, an American commando captured and tortured for information. That film is now believed to be completely lost, one of those curiosities of the direct-to-video era that simply vanished. Every review praised his martial arts, his screen presence, his natural likability. Every film should have been the one that broke him through to wider recognition. None of them were. The breakthrough kept not happening. But the role that defined Matt's acting career came in 1997. Nightman, the syndicated superhero series based on a Malibu Comics character from the Ultraverse imprint and produced by legendary TV creator Glenn A. Larson, cast Matt as Johnny Domino. The premise was wonderfully bizarre. Johnny was a San Francisco jazz saxophonist who gets struck by lightning while performing inside a cable car. The strike leaves him telepathically tuned to the frequency of evil, able to hear the thoughts of criminals and wrongdoers wherever he goes. As a side effect, he can no longer sleep, ever. Johnny obtains classified government equipment, including a bulletproof bodysuit, an anti-gravity belt that allows him to fly, a cape with holographic camouflage invisibility properties, and a mask with a red laser-emitting lens over one eye. It was Batman meets jazz musician, superhero action meets San Francisco nightlife. And it was exactly as wonderfully strange as that sounds. The show even crossed over with characters from other Glenn Larson productions, including an episode where Johnny teams up with Professor Jonathan Chase from the short-lived 80s series Manimal. Nightman ran for 2 seasons from September 1997 to May 1999, airing in syndication across the country. The show developed a genuine cult following among fans of 90s genre television, appreciated for its earnest take on comic book heroism, even when working with a limited syndicated budget. Some of the special effects were cheesy. Some of the dialogue felt forced. The continuity wasn't always consistent, but Matt brought authenticity to every action sequence because he actually knew how to fight. He could do his own stunts without relying on doubles, showcase his Kenpo karate training, and carry a show as a legitimate leading man. For 2 seasons, Matt McColm was a superhero on American television. This should have been the launching pad. Superhero content was about to explode in ways nobody could have predicted. Within just a few years, X-Men and Spider-Man would transform the genre into Hollywood's dominant force, the foundation of an entire cinematic universe model that would reshape the industry. Matt had proven he could lead a superhero property. He had the look, the skills, the experience, the screen presence. He'd done the job for 2 full seasons, but Nightman ended in 1999, and the superhero boom came just slightly too late for Matt to ride the wave. During this period, Matt also appeared in Clint Eastwood's Space Cowboys, the 2000 adventure drama about aging astronauts getting one last shot at space. Matt appeared in the 1958 flashback sequences, playing the young version of Tank Sullivan, the navigator character that James Garner portrayed in the present day. It wasn't a large role, but it meant working with one of the most respected directors in Hollywood on a mainstream theatrical release that would gross $128 million worldwide. Another connection made, another door opened, another opportunity that didn't quite lead where it should have. When Nightman ended, Matt returned to stunt work. But he wasn't doing small jobs on forgettable productions. He was on the biggest blockbusters of the 2000s. Pearl Harbor in 2001 with its massive aerial and ground combat sequences. Daredevil in 2003, Charlie's Angels. Full Throttle the same year, Mr. and Mrs. Smith in 2005 with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, Mel Gibson's brutal Apocalypto in 2006, and the first Transformers film in 2007. His skills hadn't diminished at all. Hollywood still trusted him with the most demanding physical work on the most expensive productions. Then came 2003 and the role that should have finally made him impossible to ignore. The Matrix Reloaded was one of the most anticipated sequels of all time. The original Matrix had revolutionized action filmmaking and audiences were desperate to return to that world. Matt was cast as Agent Thompson, one of the upgraded agents hunting Neo and his allies throughout the film. This wasn't a background role where he'd appear briefly and disappear. Agent Thompson has significant screen time and genuine narrative importance. Thompson fights Neo during the Crisis Meeting attack, going toe-to-toe with Keanu Reeves in choreographed combat. He pursues Trinity during the legendary freeway chase sequence. And most importantly, he's the one who shoots Trinity as she falls from a building near the film's climax. It's one of the most dramatic moments in the entire trilogy. The fulfillment of Neo's prophetic vision that has haunted him throughout the film. Neo catches Trinity before she hits the ground and removes the bullet from her chest, restarting her heart. The emotional weight of that scene depends on Agent Thompson successfully shooting her, and Matt McColm is the one pulling the trigger. Filming wasn't without incident. Carrie-Anne Moss later mentioned in an interview that Matt accidentally hit her face during the fight choreography between Trinity and Agent Thompson. These things happen in action filmmaking, especially when both performers are giving their all to make the combat look real. The fact that the Wachowskis trusted Matt with such a significant role, requiring both physical performance and the ability to match the established cold aesthetic of the agent characters speaks to how respected he was in the industry. There's a fascinating piece of Hollywood trivia here. Matt was apparently set to return as Agent Thompson in The Matrix Resurrections in 2021, the 4th film in the franchise. But when the movie finally released, his character wasn't in it. Whatever happened behind the scenes, whether creative decisions or scheduling conflicts or something else entirely, it represents yet another near miss in a career that seemed defined by them.